Gender Studies in Song of Solomon, Deconstructing Feminine Stereotypes by me, Alejandra, and
Joanna.
So first, we want to give a little introduction to the story Song of Solomon. Toni Morrison's 1977 book of Song of Solomon follows Macon Milkman Dead the Third's journey to understand his African American ancestry and identity. The narrative starts in Michigan and follows Milkman as he journeys south to Shalimar, Virginia, where he discovers the identity of his ancestor Solomon, the famous flying African. He learns more about his ancestry and the legacy of slavery as a result of his search for gold. The book, which explores issues of identity, family, and history, and the symbolism of flight, is renowned for its mix of realism and surrealism. So now we're going to give a little bit of context to our critical lens. We are doing gender studies. So gender studies investigates how social constructs of gender influences lives, institutions, and power relations using a variety of methods from different academic disciplines such as sociology, history, and literature. So our lens in the book. Feminist theory explores how the literature represents and critiques gender roles and power dynamics. It it focuses on how women find their identity and autonomy in societies that define them through men. Throughout the novel, characters such as Ruth, Pilate, and Hagar each reflect different types of pressure they had before. So these are our characters and like how our critical lens is shown in them throughout the novel. Self-definition and independence are seen in Pilate, who rejects gender norms and lives freely. Controlling represents Ruth's dependence on male figures and limits her social power. Emotional vulnerability revealed in Hagar's struggles for her self-worth through her relationship with Milkman. What questions did we ask? Some of the questions that we asked were: in what ways does Pilate's independence challenge traditional ideas of femininity? How does Morrison use Ruth, Pilate, and Hagar to critique the roles of women? How does self-defense in Pilate's society serve as a form of power and liberation for a woman?
Okay, so now this is Joanna, and I will be reading the rest. Okay, so thematic topics. Well, the first one is death. From a gender studies perspective, the novel uses death to critique the gender norms of Black culture and narrative traditions. Coming of age. In the Song of Solomon, coming of age is explored through genders by studying how characters navigate and confront patriarchal norms, sexism, and gender roles, while female characters, especially his mother Ruth and his sisters, are initially constrained by these rules. They ultimately develop their own forms of resistance and independence. Identity. Identity is examined through the lens of gender studies, focusing on how female characters define themselves in opposition to racism, patriarchal systems, and social expectations. Theme statement. In the Book of Song of Solomon, it challenges traditional gender stereotypes by portraying women who either follows or defy society definitions of femininity. It reveals the harm of these roles causes by the power of self-definition, justification. Um, so the first one is what device is diction, and the quote that I used is, "Why can you dress like woman?" in page 20, which was to Pilate. Morrison diction here highlights society rigid expectations of womanhood. The phrase dress like a woman reflects to the judgment of Pilate's consistent faces by for rejecting traditional gender roles by using critical and controlling language. The novel illustrates how Pilate independence challenges other nations of femininity. This supports the theme that true identity often conflicts with social expectations. The second device is metaphor, which the quote I use is, "She was the third beer" on page 91, which was to Ruth. In this metaphor, Ruth is compared to the third beer, something excessive, unwanted, and tolerated rather than valued. This shows how she is emotionally neglected and objectified within her marriage and household. Morrison's metaphor reveals Ruth's loneliness and lack of genuine affection around her, supporting the theme that people struggle with feelings of worth of invisibility within their own feelings. Families. The third device is symbolism, which the quote I use, "Wanna fly, you got to give up the stuff that weighs on you down," on page 179, which it was towards Hagar. The symbol of fly represents freedom, healing, and self-discovery, while the stuff weighs on you symbolizes emotional pain, unhealthy attachments for Hagar. This connects to her inability to let go of Milkman and the destructive way of her longing. This symbol emphasizes how characters must release toxic desires or past wants to truly fly. But Hagar cannot, which ultimately destroys her. This supports the themes of identity, self-worth, and burden of love.
So it's Alejandra again. Me and Joanna will be splitting this section. So moving on to the last slide, implications. In real life, women all around the world, no matter what age, always struggle to fit in due to the stereotypical norms that are in place. It doesn't matter if you fit in with the norms or not, because people will always find a way to critique you and tell you to dress more feminine. The book Song of Solomon, like Toni Morrison's other novels, focuses on Black experience through themes of identity.
The story connects to the worldview of injustice that happen in the real world through race and gender. Song of Solomon focus on shadowing the stereotypes that women go through by having to be more feminine, and for men how to be emotionally closed off. They have to be because it's seen as not manly. That's it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.